Okay, so started out with a big pile of ash. I'll be making two front doors out of this stock. One for my parents' side of the new house and one for my side. And like every job, start out by kind of dressing all the parts to size. And then I can mark out the tenons on the rails. So I've actually got the top and bottom rail clamped together, so I can run the marking gauge over both of them at the same time. Then I can define the shoulder of the tenon just using a square block clamped down onto the rail right on my marking gauge line, and then I'll just work back towards that, eventually using the square block as a guide to create a nice square shoulder. Then I can mark out the mortises. You can see on the tenon the shape and the pieces that I'm going to remove, and then I can gauge from my tenon, mark out for my mortises, and go from there. So using my small hollow chisel mortiser, I'm starting on the outside mortises, the sides that you will see when the door's put together. And then on the inside I can route a groove that will essentially be the haunching groove, and then I can carry on to cut the mortises right through in that groove. And then I just spent quite a bit of time cleaning up the mortises because my hollow chisel mortiser is not super accurate and it doesn't actually leave that clean of a cut. Probably just because it's a really cheap version. So and then I can flare out the mortises on the outside of the stiles. That will allow the wedges to go in once it's glued up. And then refining the fit of the tenon still. So whenever I can, I like to cut the wedges for the door out of the tenon stock. So that's what I'm doing here, just marking them out, and then I'll cut them out on the bandsaw when I'm cutting all the waste away. And a little more refining to get the fit right. And then a good dry fit of the door, And so both doors came to this stage the same way. As from here on, the two doors start turning into different things. So I'd glued up this panel. It's going to be the main large flat panel in this door, and so I'm just thicknessing that down, ready to go into the frame. So I'm not going to be too fussy about the joinery on the subframe. It's just going to be dominoed together, and really it's just being held in place by the main door frame. So I need to add a groove in the main door frame to accept that large panel that you saw just before. And then I could clean up the subframe while I could still get onto it with a plane. And route the rebates for the glass. And then the subframe can be dominoed to the main door frame. And I could clean up the wedges, just the bandsaw marks, and just smooth off the faces so they'll slide into the mortise a bit nicer. And then it was glue up, which went surprisingly smoothly, so that was nice. And then it was just a matter of cleaning up the door, running over it with a couple of smoothing planes, rounding off little corners here and there, and then it was pretty much ready to start putting finish on. And I ended up putting 4 coats of this outdoor polyurethane, marine polyurethane, just a satin finish. And then I had to make a few glazing beads for this door. And then it was off to the glazers. Oh yeah, Dad had come in over the weekend and he put the lock in his door too. Right, so now we're reversing back to the start of my door. So I've done the frame the same as the other one, and I'm making this kind of lattice style door. So the most difficult thing about this door was all the essentially halving joints that I'm going to have to make through the middle of the door, and so that's what I'm just laying out now, and then I can transfer from that single kind of cross mullion, I suppose you would call it, onto all of them, just using my straight edge and a knife, and that way hopefully all the halving joints will be in the same place. And then using the depth stop on my drop saw, I can cut out most of the waste, and it was a pretty simple process this way actually. So I needed to label all of the pieces just to make sure that they would go back where they were, and then I started marking out for dominoes. Yep, nothing fancy here. I just wanted something pretty quick, and dominoes work. So I needed to add a groove down each stile to take the glass, because there's no rebate down there. I wanted it to be a very clean look on that side of the door, and so the glazer's just going to have to kind of slot the glass into that groove and silicone it in place. Now I needed to make a rebate on the two rails to take the glass, because they couldn't fit the glass into the corners if I had a groove all the way around the door. So I'm using epoxy to glue up these pieces, just because of this relatively small surface area, I suppose, and because I already had it mixed up, I ended up gluing the whole door up with the epoxy. So somehow I managed to cut the flare outs on the mortises kind of completely wrong, on the wrong angle, way too shallow. So the wedges didn't fit in very well, but enough that they're doing what they need to, especially glued in with the epoxy, but not ideal. So this was a bit of a bugger to clean up. There ended up being a little kink or a little bow in the two long kind of mullions. So some of these joints didn't end up being super flush, so it was a bit of a bugger to try and clean them up inside the door frame, but it got there. So I installed the lock and got the door back from the glazers. So now it was a matter of fitting a whole lot of little glazing beads, and I tell you, I was well over working on this door by this point, so I didn't do any mitering. I just kept it all square, which is kind of in keeping with the shape of the door. And because these aren't actually doing anything, really, they're just hiding the raw edge of the glass. I'm just using some super glue to sit them in, and then I clear coated them after that. And then suddenly the doors were in. Looked pretty cool, I thought. Thanks for watching, everybody.